Welcome everyone to the Hearthstone Global Games. It's week number 5, day number 2. Is it day number 2 now, Lorinda?
I think so. It depends if you count the community day or not.
Oh, I guess it could be day number 3, couldn't it?
Yeah.
We can't ignore the community show. As I said, this is Lorinda. My name is Dan Gaskin, and we'll be bringing you the action. To start with today, we have some incredible matches coming your way. But before we do get into them, let's take a look at the standings so we can remind ourselves who is where currently, Neil. As Brazil, they're 5-0, sat right at the top of the pack.
Yeah, looking good. One of the teams, I think we managed to not pick somehow between us, but loads of the 4s almost certainly through as well. And then we've got some of these 3 and 1s bidding to join that top 8, top 12 today and make sure they get through to next week as well. That's why today's action is going to be so good. And the 2-2s, there's some really powerful teams in that list.
Yeah, this is when it's starting to get scary. I suppose it has been scary for a lot of these teams already at 2-2. Some of them were at 0-2, and they've managed to claw their way back in to try and survive. And maybe, just maybe, they can get it to the last 16, but it is going to be a lot of effort. And as you quite rightly said, some big teams there, especially, most notably, the United States sitting at 2-2, who we will see play later on today.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing how the United States get back into it. They're fighting back from 0-2, I believe. So one of the most popular teams, I'd say, because basically they're half of a region in their own right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive place, the United States, right? So
Absolutely.
they should have good Hearthstone players. Let's take a look at what games are going to be coming up on your screens then. I'm sure everyone at home is excited for these. We start off with South Korea versus United Kingdom, and we have everything else that follows, finishing with Denmark versus United States. Anything in particular you're looking forward to, Neil?
I mean, I always like to watch Norway. People pick on me for liking Norway so much, but honestly, 4 of those matches I think are going to be great, and Bulgaria, Spain, it'd be great to see both those in action. We haven't seen much of Bulgaria or Spain at all on our screens, so that will be a good match too. Just a great day too, I think.
Yeah, and off stream we also have Thailand, Vietnam, and Chile versus Poland. And I believe every game today is either a qualification match in such, like you get to 4 wins, which means you should be there. Of course, we haven't mastered it yet because it could change. You know what happens with the Swiss formats and how it changes who beats who. Or it's an elimination match with several 2-2 matches. I believe the final 3 matches on stream today are all elimination matches.
So we're saying goodbye to a couple of teams and probably the USA as well.
Oh, well. Shots fired already from Lorinda, but let's take a look at the first teams. They're going to be on your screen. It's going to be South Korea versus United Kingdom. Of course, the United Kingdom are our home country, but we will not be biased because we know the South Korean team has an absolute powerhouse of a lineup.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. They're all running at amazing percentages in tour stops. The reason we haven't seen many in the top 16s is they seem to just not be getting those wins at the right time through the year. But the player with the least points in Season 2 was Steelo with 48. Put it into context, you needed low 30s to get to playoffs. So we're going to see all these 4 at playoffs in 2 weeks' time. It's EU this week, then APAC the week after. And they are looking like they're going to have a great chance of just dominating the playoffs completely. Turns out South Korea are good at esports, who knew?
And on the other side for the United Kingdom, we're not so bad at esports as well. Certainly, Hearthstone, one of our better esports titles, that's for sure. We have some fantastic players. You saw the lovely sights of London there. Not really sure if they're that lovely. They made it look okay, I'd say. London's not the greatest of places.
Did you just say the UK are good at esports?
We are, no, I said in Hearthstone, yes.
Oh, in Hearthstone, sure.
That's what I'm saying. This is our chance to show what we're made of in esports.
And Toastmonster recently won Insomnia in the UK. Now, that's not a big event normally, but it's relevant because Boar Control and Green Sheep have previously won that event. So now 3 of the 4 players on the team, and the other one's Jackie Chan, who doesn't try to win the event, he just turns up with whatever he turns up with.
I think winning an event is always going to be a good thing, a nice accolade to have. Let's have a look at the picks and bans then and see what was taken away. Of course, 9 classes are brought by both sides, and then you take away those decks that you think are good against yours because they are open deck lists, so you will know exactly what you want to get rid of.
And getting rid of the Druid and the Quest Rogue at the start there. We're seeing that more and more, this Quest Rogue banned on one side and picked immediately when they got the chance on the other. It's just risen to the top of the tree, particularly in this tournament, but also on ladder it's going pretty well.
Yeah, the Quest Rogue just has always been the control killer, and when Odd Warrior is in the meta as well, it is quite risky to leave it up, which for the United Kingdom, they did leave that Rogue up. They opted to get rid of the Druid first, and United Kingdom are running an Odd Warrior, so they'll be hoping that they didn't queue into that Quest Rogue, because otherwise things could get a bit dicey. We saw what happened yesterday with Quest Rogue versus Odd Warrior. It's not the nicest of matchups, is it?
It's not indeed. They didn't draw Valera and still got it done on the 28th card. Both teams bringing Control Mage. We've seen a lot of Aggro Mage in this tournament, but I think they've both got Control Mage. That's interesting to me. Means they're looking for even more ways of grinding out their opponents.
Grinding is an interesting way to put it. Control Mage, not one of my favourite decks. I was kind of liking Aggro Mage just being there in the meta. Let's take a look at the matchups, though, and see what games are going to be taking place. We're going to start off with Surrender versus Jackie Chan. It's Rogue versus Priest, but it's not going to be a simple matchup, Lorinda. It is the Quest Rogue for South Korea, but it's going to be an Inner Fire Priest for Jackie Chan.
We haven't seen that at all, although I've seen people messing around with it. I saw Zele, or Zele as he calls himself now.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh god.
I don't know if he's like laughing at himself or if he actually always wanted to be called Zele. There is only one consonant between the A's, so that's probably functionally correct, a bit like shaman and shaman.
Don't start that, please.
But yeah, Inner Fire Priest, similar to what he was playing, although he was playing Topsy-Turvy instead of Inner Fire. And interesting to see how that goes, especially with Jackie Chan at the helm, because if there's a sort of archetype he would be good with, I imagine it's this one.
Well, Jackie Chan is known for playing decks that are somewhat different and off meta. I don't want to say meme decks because Jackie Chan is very good at piloting decks that maybe aren't normal, but they still do very well on ladder, and he's even taken these decks to tournaments and performed relatively well. So yeah, maybe this is a decent chance, because I know full well Ball Control was playing some Inner Fire Priest previously as well, so all these players will have taken this deck for a reason.
Yeah, and at the start of the year, Jackie Chan actually said, okay, I'm going to be more competitive this year, I'm going to play serious decks, you know what we mean, without being too insulting, and he instantly qualified for Germany and did really well. And then as the year went by, he's like, I prefer my streaming, and if you're going to be a streamer in general, you do end up playing slightly unusual decks. And here we go with that unusual looking deck. Extra arms.
Yeah, there are a few extra cards that have been added to make this deck a little bit different. I mean, after the latest expansion, people didn't know whether Inner Fire Priest would actually survive. It doesn't run anything like Duskbreakers like it used to. We used to have that anti-aggro kind of ability, but this seems to be really the ideal matchup, I'd say. Going up against a deck that is particularly slow, a deck that's not particularly doing much to the board, you are just going to be able to have time to find those combo pieces, put stuff on the board, and hope it's not removed.
Hope it's not removed is a big deal, though. I'm interested to see how they cope with Giggling Inventor. I'm interested to see how they cope with Vanish. And they can't be too slow. We've seen what happens if you give Quest Rogue too much time. And if there's somebody who I feel will play Quest Rogue impeccably, somehow Surrender just fits the bill nicely. Really careful in unusual matchups. He works things out very, very quickly.
And at the same time, for the Quest Rogue, they should have a little bit of time to be able to get through their deck as well. I mean, potentially they could choose to complete with Gigglings if they wanted to. If you're saying you think Gigglings are going to be really awkward for the Priest to get through, then maybe they can make that option. It's really going to depend on what they draw and what cards they are presented to try and complete the quest with. There is one Master Spell available for Jackie Chan and this Priest, which, if saved, could be used for that final punching finisher.
Yeah, and another thing is they don't have to get through for that huge kill. If they can just get some early damage, and we're seeing that now with the North here, just okay, here's a problem. We don't care about the cards so much as just hitting you from the start. You don't have to do it with a 32-32 nasty thing. You can hit them with a 9-9 or a 12-12 or so. I don't know how you double up to 9. Oh yeah, there's a Steambot. I knew there's a reason. You just hit them with bits and pieces and get the damage in quickly. And already here, coin extra arms might be tempting.
Now, it is very difficult, I would say, as a team to prepare for matchups in the Hearthstone Global Games. Because of the pick phase, it means that you don't know what you're going to be playing against with one deck, and you cannot practice every deck against 9 other decks.
You're not going to spend all night saying, how do we play against this Priest with all of our decks then?
So the likelihood of the United Kingdom testing this deck against Quest Rogue, I mean, they may have, because Quest Rogue is quite popular on ladder at the moment, but it's certainly not going to be a comfortable matchup that they know every single in and out.
And there we go, going for that early damage, taking the pressure off the need to get through a big combo hit and just getting damage in early on while it's there.
Well, I mean, and they could just add more arms afterwards as well. Like, this can stack up. It gets a little bit scary for Surrender because at the moment he has no way to deal with it. Notice you might see in Surrender's list as well, running a Fan of Knives. Typically, if you've played a lot of this deck on ladder, Fan of Knives kind of only worked its way into this deck recently with a lot of the playoff submissions. We've seen Fan of Knives replace Wax Elementals. So obviously saying we don't need the defensive element as much. We actually just want to go for that control killer element of just drawing more through our deck. Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of Knives in this particular format because it's so mid-rangey. Ladder's different. You get hit in the face so often that you need a bit of defense. But again, with playoffs, when you're taking a Conquest lineup, you can't afford to be in a situation where you just get beaten up by 3 aggro decks in a row. So you do need that extra defense. But in this format, we're not seeing that much aggro, and you can ban out the bits of aggro that turn up. I think weeks 1 and 2, some teams tried to bring full aggro lineups. I don't think they did very well.
No, they did not.
And Zorkthar will be very happy with me right now, because he submitted full aggro for playoffs, and he was annoyed at me yesterday for saying how aggro is like dead.
I mean, I think for Conquest it's slightly different. This format is a bit more scary if you are trying to go all out aggro. But speaking of aggro, yep, United Kingdom and Jackie Chan, they've decided this is how we could potentially just win here. We could just smack him in the face with the small-ish minions. We have Inner Fire as a backup. We've got Shadow Visions as well.
Yeah, they've got Silence. They've got a Steambot, which is effectively a 9/9 with a double Inner Fire in hand. And yeah, they're just trying to set up Armageddon, really, right from the start.
Another interesting inclusion on the Rogue is a backstab as well. So rather than going for double Fan of Knives instead of double Wax Elemental, it's just 1 Fan of Knives, 1 backstab. Backstab can be used to stem some early aggression, so it's almost like a substitute for a Wax Elemental. Very good against like Zoo to kill off a Flame Imp or something like that.
And the pressure is well and truly on South Korea to find... But they need to work out how much time they have. Something I've noticed with watching the top Quest Rogue players is they find a way to have more time, which basically means not worrying about their health total until they have to. Sometimes that means you worry about it on turn 3. We saw yesterday people like just getting rid of everything they could at all methods necessary, like boring into things and so on, and just considering that later on they'll find a way. But here, woof.
Well, yeah, they need to do something.
Yeah.
They need to try and stop this pressure that's coming out of the United Kingdom. Because you've got to be scared of just Power Word Shield, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire. Like, that is something that could just happen this turn, and then suddenly you're facing so much damage.
Well, it's not going to be a flawless victory. They've taken a point of damage from the boar. So that's a...
Well, what if Jackie Chan just heals his face back up? Does that
They've
count
still
as a
taken a
flawless?
point of damage.
Okay.
I feel. That's one for the
so
statisticians.
You'd say it's not a perfect game, even if you've healed yourself up?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay, all right.
So not a perfect game, so we can stop talking about it now and talk about something else.
Game number 2! But an interesting decision now for United Kingdom, because if they still want to go down the route of hitting face with this Northshire Cleric, it's how they also defend the Northshire Cleric, and a Steambot does do well at doing that, and also offers the option of Inner Fire next turn onto it as well.
Yeah, and playing these 2 minions out there has allowed them to take a bit of damage from the Steambot, whereas if they just left them in their hand last turn, obviously this would just be an uncontested 0-8 after it's been daggered. Also, you know, just threatening things like, if we draw Sonya, maybe stuff would have happened. Just gave them a chance to do anything, really, because they're struggling so hard here.
Prep probably not important right now, but could be very important to complete a quest early on, a little bit later, if South Korea even get that far. But the Giggling Inventor into maybe shadow stepping back the Giggling Inventor is entirely a possibility here.
You know what looks absolutely terrifying here?
What?
Is the double silence on the 2 Anoyatrons.
Yes.
Heal up your Cleric, so it's 8. Double Inner Fire is 17 points to face. It won't be because they will bump into the 0-9.
Yep.
But
it's pretty close.
It's getting to the point where lethal is... It's not going to happen, but it's already being set up every turn. I wonder why they're called Anoyatrons. So, Shadow Visions into Divine Spirits. Also lethal?
Before we get there, it's just whether South Korea... Okay, they're not going to Shadow Step that back. And
there's Divine Spirit, that's lethal.
There is Divine Spirit just there for you already.
So you Divine Spirit, either minion, you then Inner Fire that minion, it's 12, you Inner Fire the other one, that's 18. You silence the 2 taunty things, that is 18 points of hit you in the face, which is exact lethal. And the United Kingdom We're going to take a rapid 1-0 lead.
Yeah, the perfect game for them against the Quest Rogue that just was too slow. We didn't even see any kind of fight back at all from South Korea. They just waited. They hoped that the giggling would keep them alive. But double silence being very important in this particular scenario.
Yeah, and Jackie can see the funny side. Well, not only is it funny because you're winning 1-0, but I mean, you can see Surrender's face. He's like, all right, well, we weren't winning that game of Hearthstone, whatever we did. And it was interesting how he set about it. He did give himself a chance to... If there hadn't been those silences, the giggling sticks, suddenly you've got a 5-minion board. And rogues can fight back. If they get that wide board and maybe pick up a Sonya, complete the quest, suddenly you've got an army of 4/4s. That was a way to set up to try and win that very difficult game there.
And we were saying, like, maybe they haven't played that matchup, but they certainly went down a game plan right from the get-go of, all right, we have more arms, we have extra arms, we can just put a lot of arms on this Northshire Cleric and start hitting face. And it worked out in the end. They were rewarded with their aggression, and the United Kingdom take a 1-0 lead in this matchup. Both teams at the moment are 3-1 in the Swiss, so it is going to be a chance to maybe get to the last 16 if they win this series. But let's take a look at game number 2 then. We'll have a look at the sheet and see what's going to be coming up. We have Paladin versus Warlock. Paladin for the South Korea is going to be an odd Paladin, and it's going to be a Zulok for Green Sheep. Who'd have thought? Green Sheep playing aggressive deck.
Whoa! What is this sorcery?
Never. But yeah.
Apparently he's not taking her to playoffs, Derek was telling me.
Oh, he's gone for something a little bit more control-y, has he?
Yeah, I think so.
He must have a aggressive deck in that lineup. I don't think Green Sheep's the kind of man not to play any
I don't
aggression.
know exactly, but he's known for taking all aggression in Swiss tournaments. He will target you if you play a head-to-head. But in Swiss, he's always taken aggression, so one to look out for over the weekend. One
to look out for, indeed. But he is known for his aggressive decks, so him playing Zulok is certainly the right person to be piloting this one. But it's going up against the odd Paladin, Lorinda, which is probably a common matchup you'll see on ladder if you're playing a lot of ladder of Hearthstone. Like odd Paladin, Zulok, they're both heavily used decks because you can climb quickly, in theory. But actually...
Or you can fall quickly.
You do fall quickly because there's so many decks now that are so good at controlling these matchups.
Yeah, the Dreadlord's absolutely key in this one. It just stops the Paladin from being able to use its hero power. Okay, yeah, you can use it with level up. Wait till turn 7 against Zoo. That's not happening. So various things you can do. The Zoo can get off to a flying start sometimes.
Yeah, and they are running Dreadlords as well. Yeah, I have seen some Zoo lists kind of take out one Dreadlord maybe, just try and get something else. And they're running.
Try not to kill their opponent.
They're running Leroy Jenkins. They're not running the Doom Guards as well. I'm sorry.
That does seem pretty much staple now.
Too hard.
To be fair.
Well, we saw a Doom Guard last week.
We did.
And that made you happy, didn't it?
Yeah.
It got you all cheery. Right, before we get into the second game, I think it's fact time. Facts with Dan. We're going to make this a proper segment, aren't we?
What, facts with Dan?
Yeah, probably come up with something a little bit more catchy. Do you want a UK fact or a South Korea fact?
I want to know something about the United Kingdom, because I've not been there for a while.
Okay. Did you know, Neil, the Stonehenge is older than the pyramids?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, great.
How old is Stonehenge?
It was supposedly made in 3000 BC.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it functions like a sort of thing.
Yes, it does.
A calendar.
A calendar. Sure. A thing.
A calendar.
Does it?
Yeah.
How does it function as a calendar?
So on the summer solstice, if you stand like in the right place, the key stones, which are obvious when you're there, basically the sun rises exactly between them in the right spot.
Interesting.
And as the year goes round, the shadows cast in the right places to tell you what the date is.
That's very interesting. Good fact, Lorinda.
Except badly worded.
Next year, write down facts about calendars. Okay, right, game number 2. We are going to see Green Sheep piloting this Zoo, and it's going to be South Korea now trying to take him down. Blood Knight is available, but is a Blood Knight going to be helping out in this matchup?
I don't think so. Let's just check to see if there's any Argent Squires hanging about, but I doubt it, but they could be. There's not. So, no.
So you throw that one away, and Stilo agrees.
Gets a giggling giggling. If only had a Blood Knight to go with that.
But you've got the healing already for the Zoo, which is nice to have. It means on turn 3 you've got Fungal Enchanter into Happy Ghoul because you've been able to damage yourself with this Flame Imp. That's what's also important.
They really would like something to go wide on turn 2. Though tapping on 2 as Zoo against Paladin just gets you immediately a long way behind. Obviously, you can catch it back up because you get to play your Happy Ghoul and stuff.
I've never seen a Zulok tap on 2. It's always Keleseth. Always Keleseth.
Have you tried playing Zoo yourself?
Yep, always tapping on 2.
Yeah, that's because you don't play Doomguard.
Yeah, maybe something like a Librarian would be a perfect draw for Green Sheep, just to be able to draw through his deck and play a minion, maybe find another 1-drop. But South Korea are going to respond by just putting 2 1/1s on the board to make it a little bit awkward of a trade.
Yeah, and it just challenges the board nicely for 1 mana, challenging your opponent's 1 mana. Health totals, not really important. This one, I mean, it's important when you get to 0, but somebody will get control of the board and it will just be obvious who is going to win at that point, almost certainly.
And it's whether Stilo and South Korea here take advantage of a level up at the first opportunity they are presented with because of things like Dreadlord. They cannot risk just leaving up 1/1s and hoping it's not going to be cleared, for example, behind some taunts maybe, behind some gigglings.
Yeah, they'd love to get a Fungal Mancer activated as well. Would be a thing. Obviously, UK traded last turn just in case of Arcos Veteran, which would have been an absolute nightmare. I use this phrase a little bit too freely, but it's all about who has the most things on the board. The size of the things matters because it helps you control your opponent's things, but basically, getting more stuff on the board is extremely good in this match.
This is not a zoo hand you're really used to looking at. Even though it looks nice, Fungal Enchanter into Happy Ghoul, it puts 2 3/3s on the board. These doubling imps, they kind of sat there doing nothing at the moment. You really want to be drawing a Soul Infusion to try and pump up these imps and make them even bigger, badder, and better.
However, they will be pretty decent if the 3/3s are controlling the board. And I just said it's all about how many things you have on the board. Doubling imp is 2 minions that won't get taken down too easily. Well, Dan's giving me a round of applause there as if doubling... how did you know how many imps it was doubling? Maybe you play it and you get like 9.5.
I was able to wind you up just with a little round of applause.
This is first game of a long day, Dan. There's plenty of time for me to get my own back.
This is true. But at least I did it subtly so that you didn't have to shout to the world that I was giving you a round of applause.
So you cast this turn then?
Okay, so it is
and
interesting
all of
for
the
South
others,
Korea, because
yes,
you have a Blessing of Might, which can take down one of the 3/3s if you would like, but everything else is pretty awkward. You can just go wide and hope that your opponent doesn't have a follow-up, but hoping against a zoo not to have a follow-up is a bad idea.
A zoo that has passed on turn 2.
Yeah.
Which would have played... If they'd had a 1-drop on turn 2, they would probably have played it. Just because of the nature of the matchup. And interesting, they're going to go wide now because this gets underneath the Dreadlord.
Yes.
They've got the coin level up ability, which you were talking about. They also have the potential to just draw a Fungal Mancer, although if there's 6 enemy minions, they will definitely be going for that level up.
And these doubling imps aren't going to do that good a job against some 3/3s on the board. United Kingdom can take out 2 1/1s, meaning next turn South Korea are going to have 4 3/3s, unless the United Kingdom see fit to soulfire one of these 1/1s.
It is definitely something they've got to talk about, ridiculous though that sounds. However, they've also got to consider the case where the opponents don't have level up. If it's only Fungal Mancer, then you want to have other stuff on the board.
I think this play screams from South Korea of level up. You saw that they kept 1 card as well on the left-hand side.
It is a bit whiffy. So they're going to get 3 free trades if they want it. However, now they've drawn the raid leader, most of those trades can still happen anyway.
Yeah, but you do lose your minions that way.
Yeah, and you are playing into the Dreadlord turn.
But it is enough to warrant a discussion between South Korea. Whether I'm sure they're saying, well, raid leader essentially does the same thing. Can we save back this level up for a bigger turn?
So what's the punish if they don't level up? Okay, they're going to do it, so we don't need to talk about that.
Well, I don't think they're going to get a bigger level up. I think this is their chance.
But they're not going to get a bigger raid leader either. Although they are, because they've got the Giggling Inventor. So if the game is going to go super long, for instance, they could save a coin here, although they wouldn't because they'd coin out dudes, and go for a turn 7 pair of 3/3s. I don't think this is right. I just think you've definitely got to talk about it because your raid leader is only good if you start the turn with minions on the board, whereas the level up is always good with Vine Cleaver with the hero power late.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so yeah, even though the level up is good here, they've decided that actually the raid leader is not ever this good again, whereas the level up still might be, and they're just going to dump stuff on the board. And ignoring their hero power, they're going to put their good cards down, the ones that they actually chose to play in their deck.
United Kingdom need to find something like worth putting on the board though. At the moment, this is just a bit floppy. Chain Gang
happens.
Chain Gang's all right.
Chain Gang does stodge things up nicely. Defending this Light Warden could be important.
Solarium is not going to be played. I don't feel like you use Solarium here.
But at some point you want to play it, so you don't really want to Soulfire. This hand's too good to Soulfire one away at random. But if you don't Soulfire this raid leader, your board is just an absolute tragedy.
Yeah, it's a shame you haven't found any sort of healing. It would have been a lot easier.
And so if you do want to Soulfire here, which I think they might, then maybe you do Solarium just to fill your hand with more gubbins.
I mean, you could Solarium and you could potentially find a Voodoo Doctor up your face, and then suddenly you can then trade in your Light Warden that's already on the board.
And your Soulfire might then not discard the Chain Gang, but the whole Chain Gang thing looks too powerful. I agree. And now you're open to a free kick basically here.
That looks like a free kick. That's a penalty, if anything. As Fungal Mancer is going to be able to buff up 2 of these minions, trade in so comfortably now.
Yeah.
And how often do we see these matchups won by just something like Fungal Mancer on 5? I mean, even without Fungal Mancer on 5, South Korea are in such a fantastic spot.
And now go back to that level up, turn 7. If they're not in a fantastic spot then, which goodness knows how they wouldn't be, they can just go make 2 more 3/3s at that point. Turn 6 is just a Giggling Vent and a Flame Elemental. That seems nice. They're just going to keep making stuff happen. And simultaneously controlling the board. Whereas if they'd gone the other way, now they'd be playing a raid lead onto their 3 wands that would have survived last turn. And there'd be 4 wands, and like, who cares? It's the same thing. So this has worked out beautifully for them.
And even something like a Dreadlord isn't going to be particularly good here either.
I feel like you've just got to Solarium here so often. You've got to try and wrestle this board back.
I mean, what would be nice is Voodoo Doctor and Soul Infusion. There's one of the 2. Ugh. I mean, I guess it's alright. Throwing away one Fungal Mancer isn't the end of the world.
You can dump the entire rest of your hand. Oh, dump a Kobold Librarian maybe. Voodoo Doctor, Happy Ghoul, Doubling Imp, Soulfire. That seems to get a lot of the board back for the time being, as best you can.
It's playtime.
Yeah, it does wrestle back quite a lot. And this is one of the benefits that you were talking about with Solarium, is you can just throw away the gubbins, as you keep quite rightly calling it.
Yeah, what else would you call it? Well, obviously gubbins.
I don't know if I'd call a Fungal Mancer gubbins, but I guess in that scenario it kind of was.
But now they get to, Korea get to Giggling Inventor, if they so desire. With Blessing of Might in hand, these Annoyatrons are going to be pretty tasty. And even a Dreadlord just doesn't survive next turn now. Oh, that's nice.
That's not, though. Ugh. Oh, that's just... oh, that is I was literally going to say, like, you just don't want to draw a 5-drop, but... oh. That's your Doomguard, that's your Leroy Jenkins. And to be fair, you'd be more happy if that were a Doomguard, I think, at this point, but... I mean, Soul Infusion arriving too late. Soul Infusion would have been great last turn, been able to put that onto a Doubling Imp.
Yeah.
But now Stilo has the burst damage in his hand as well. He has Leroy Jenkins, he has Blessing of Might. And Green Sheep might just be forced to play this Leroy just to try and stay on this board, because otherwise they're just going to fall far too far behind.
This is weird to me. It doesn't seem to really do much. I mean, it kills a 1/2, but it gives them 2 1/1s. Is that even better? Are you even in a better spot here? I guess you end up dealing with a Divine Shield that you wouldn't have dealt with. That's kind of the result of all that.
I mean, by playing it now, it means that your next card that you draw, you can actually get the benefit of Soul Infusion onto.
Okay.
Leroy Jenkins isn't just going to be sat there and absorbing that damage because you don't need it.
I like that. If you draw a Chain Gang, your only remaining good card for that, I think.
Yep.
Or your only remaining doubling card, because it makes 2. Not that you bothered me with that comment.
Samurai Jenga makes 2? Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, Soul Infusion into Samurai Chengang might be all that keeps United Kingdom alive, but even at that point, it's not going to be particularly comfortable.
Yeah, Korea's Leroy looks significantly better than United Kingdom's Leroy at this point. Because it's just going to take over the game. Getting the 16 while they can, just because they don't want it to die to a potential Dreadlord. We keep talking about that Dreadlord. And here's the level up that wasn't played on turn 4. Well, it's not been played on this turn either, because next turn they get 4 3/3s out of it. Defended with the Giggling. And that choice has made a big difference in this game, I think.
Well,
oh, you can have...
You need a chain gang here. Oh, there's Dreadlord. Actually, that's not so bad. You're still in it, just.
Going to be a big old Dreadlord as well. That has saved the level up from going completely off the charts.
But Vine Cleaver off the top is just going to be
see that picked up. Oh my goodness.
Instant snap from Stilo as they tie up the series 1-1. Unfortunately for Green Sheep, just couldn't compete with the board. I think the Leroy Jenkins draw was what just killed that game in the end. I do like that they did play the Leroy Jenkins just to try and give themselves a chance with that Soul Infusion. I mean, imagine if they had drawn a Saronite, double Soul Infusion onto it. Maybe they survive, who knows? But to allow the players to think about that and for us to think about that as well, we're going to go for a short break. But when we come back, we'll be continuing this series. Don't go anywhere. South Korea and the United Kingdom are tied up at 1-1 at the moment, and we're going to go into game number 3, which is going to be a bit of a slog. It's going to be a bit of a long one, a grind. It's going to be Control Mage versus Odd Warrior. I think any game nowadays with Odd Warrior being involved, it's going to be a relatively long one, unless you have aggression on the other side. But I don't think Control Mage is particularly aggressive. Do you, Neil?
Hit you with my... Oh.
Yeah, my Arcane Artificer.
Yeah, great. That's one.
My one drop
Tank up.
for 1/2 that's just going to constantly try and hit you. But yeah, I don't think that this is a great matchup for the Odd Warrior, maybe. Like, you'd think just being able to armor up, you might be able to get out of range of any control deck. However, key cards that you were looking at and you were telling me about is some of the tech cards from the Mage side.
Yeah, the Geist is important. It immediately just thins your opponent's deck out by 4 cards, well, probably 3. Importantly, takes away those assemblies, which takes away a lot of the late game resources.
And with that reason, maybe Toast Monster decides to keep Omega Assembly here and just play it on 1 and get the value before Geist comes into the equation.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also it puts them near a fatigue as well if they do get them all Geisted away. On the other side, there isn't Elise, so that could be a game swinger. And for that reason, even if somebody gets in front, I don't think we're going to see an early concede or anything, because Elise can just turn it around, as can Syndra Goes on the other side. Which isn't a tech card, but it's a card that obviously can do anything. And they are keeping the Omega Assembly for the reasons you were saying. And also the Hatchling, because if you can get that down before Polymorph, maybe, you put another card back into your deck.
Yeah, I did have a little chat with Toast Monster just after we received the bans, and I asked him how he felt about the matchup in general, and he said, well, I think we've got 2 favourable matchups, 1 unfavourable being this one, and the rest of 50-50s. So this is going to be the difficult one. That's not value.
That's not anything, that's just junk.
Well, the Eternium Rover maybe can just help out with some armor a little bit along the lines.
Awesome.
Maybe for fatigue later on.
Yeah, I mean, it can. Something I'd like to point out about Toast Monster here, I think in weeks 1 and 2, he looked extremely nervous and almost a sense of maybe not even feeling like he belonged there, at least outwardly. But now he's won that Insomnia, now he's been with this team a while, now he's... You know, Ball Control, Jackie, and Green Sheep. If you wanted 3 people to make you feel at home, that's 3 people who will automatically make you feel comfortable when you're around them.
I mean, he is the only new boy on the team.
Yep.
The other 3 were already on the team last year, weren't they?
Yep.
And he's replacing George C, of all players.
We had Jumbo last year as well. So,
oh, yeah,
we didn't have Ball Control.
We didn't have Boar. It feels like we should have had Boar,
yeah,
but we didn't have Boar.
People voted, I mean, I certainly made a bit of a misplay by voting for somebody that wasn't Ball Control last year, assuming he would get in. 2
of the players are from last year's team. My apologies, Ball Control. I just thought you were there, as you are just a token name in the United Kingdom now.
I remember, so you and I think it was you and I, were casting UK Prem. Ball Control was playing when the news broke that he wasn't on the team. And his face was, I mean, he said the UK Prem's a pretty important event in the UK. It gets quite a lot of viewers, people enjoy watching it because of the personalities. And Boar was just trying to basically not completely tilt.
Yeah, because, I mean, a chance to represent your country in the global games is
versus trying to be
incredible. I mean, it was the finals at Gamescom last year, the finals at BlizzCon this year, 2 amazing events.
And at the time, I think we all felt, even then, obviously with credit to Green Cheap, who's had some fantastic results, including going to Worlds. I think at that time, between Bohr and George C was one of the best players in the country for sure. And Bohr not getting on was a little bit of a smack to him. But he's done really well. I mean, he's bounced back from that now and is regarded as a world-class player. He recently won Seat Story Cup. Got 3 top 16s along the way for tour stops. There's only 6 people got more tour stop wins than him in terms of matches. And 5 of those are Hunter Ace.
And there was I think there was a little chat there from Toast Monster and the team of like, is this Doomsayer worth silencing? What else are we going to be silencing in this game? But I guess maybe silencing like a 0-1 champion thing that comes off of Syndragosa might be important later on to stop a legendary minion.
Yeah, they also haven't got their BGH to deal with the Lich King just yet. Maybe it's just an emergency measure. You really don't want Korea having even more value against you.
And we're going to see now if United Kingdom want to play this Omega Assembly again. Or maybe the Hatchling could come down and hope there isn't a Polymorph. As you pointed out, the Polymorph does thin this deck out considerably from the side of the United Kingdom because you can't shuffle in that Matriarch.
Also, by making them polymorph it now, yeah, you saw how Toast felt about it, but by making the polymorph it now worst case, that's a water elemental that doesn't get made with a polymorph later. Because polymorphs just turn into 3/6s later on. But instead it's a sheep.
And now when I first looked at this matchup, my initial thought was, well, do you even play Dr. Boom? Is the hero power just too valuable at gaining 4 every turn? But maybe if Toast Monster and the United Kingdom feel like this is an unfavorable matchup and they need to find value, perhaps Dr. Boom is a way of finding that value.
Yeah, just get a few decent rolls on there. You still get an average of 1.6 armor per turn. 1.4, sorry. So it's not that bad. But that will tell us more about their mindset when they see it. Because the first time when you look at this, you just think, well, 30 turns of 4 armor is 120 armor. How do you ever lose? But it turns out, you know, from asking around, from looking, because it's not a matchup I've played much, is it feels like the Warrior does eventually just get beaten down by something. Yeah,
I mean, water elementals that are flooding the board. The Warrior only has X amount of removal tools, even though they do have some.
Was that deliberate?
Was what deliberate?
Water elementals flooding the board.
Well, I mean, if you want to point it out to everyone, I thought it was just a little bit smart, but sure.
Okay. A little bit smart. But there is no Jaina. We talk about that as if Jaina is here. Jaina is not yet around.
Yeah, I think you'll let her off. It's only 10 cards into the deck. But Dr. Boom can provide the ability to discover mechs every now and then, and the rush mechanic that you are given from Dr. Boom can be extremely important. And also, I mean, Darius Crawley being there, like the fact that you can rush minions down and try and punch your opponent in the face is going to be quite significant in this matchup.
So they need to do the calculation, which they will probably have done before the game, of how much they can get from Dr. Boom. Obviously, you get the armor from time to time, but basically discovering mechs is the absolute key. And the earlier you play it, the more mechs you discover. So they have decided, yep, we don't need, well, we do need armor, but it's not going to win us the game, incredibly.
And the zaps, they are also going to be pretty important. Maybe not now, because you'd have to imagine that Dagrivius is going to be able to build up some armor of his own with Arcane Artificers a little bit later on.
There's Alana, which is going to be an interesting tussle, how to force that onto the board without it getting brawled away. Because that's ever sticks, that's the end of the game.
Yeah, usually that is your final commitment to the board. You count how many board removals there are from the United Kingdom, you lure them out with just water elementals, and then you play Alana just as that last killer.
How quickly do you want to play this Shield Slam, given that there is a Geist in your opponent's deck? They haven't played it, so they probably haven't got it in hand right now. Because I think they'd have just slammed it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, they've not rushed to play this Omega Assembly either.
I think they've, yeah, when they're getting close enough that they can try and get good stuff.
As we see off stream in another in an elimination match instead of a 3-1 match, Vietnam are 1-0 up against Thailand.
Interesting. Okay. Thailand in particular, well, that's sort of a regional derby, if you like. They 2 teams vying to be one of the best teams around that region of APAC. So both teams emerging sort of through the last year or so. Interesting to see who comes out on top in that one. If you do want to know, and you do want to watch that match, you'll get it on YouTube within 24 hours of this broadcast. Is the aim, at least?
Yeah, it's the HS Esports account on Twitter that usually tweet those out, as Darius Crowley is now going to be put onto the board. And try and get some value out of this. Try and put something that's going to stick around and be a bit of a nuisance for South Korea. And I feel like this Omega Assembly that is in the hand of United Kingdom isn't being played straight away because they only need to wait 2 more turns and then suddenly they can get full value out of it.
Yeah, they might as well take the chance at this point, I think. Because Jaina has now turned up just in time.
Yeah, and I think that'll be unpleasant for Toast Monster to see Jaina come down potentially on 9 here. They would have hoped that maybe she was toward the bottom of the deck to allow them to really get ahead on the board before she starts producing water elementals.
It's a big deal because South Korea's hand is filling up. They were going to have to start burning cards, like throwing away flame strikes frivolously and such like.
Say that again?
No.
Okay.
But now Jaina's arrived, they'll be able to use the flame strikes and pings to generate water elementals rather than just dumping them for no reason.
And suddenly that means you are going to be less inclined to put things on the board if you're Toast Monster. You're just going to be like, well, why am I going to play any mechs? Because I don't want to give him a reason to be able to ping anything off.
And by him, you mean Dak Rivius, the highest points earner in APAC, I believe, and certainly 53 points in Season 2, as well as leading in Season 1. Having a bit of a good year.
Yeah,
won a tour stop early on, I think it was Thailand.
He also qualified for Japan and had an extremely good performance at Japan. I remember watching and casting that one, was very impressed with his play.
Yeah, it was interesting because when we sort of hadn't encountered him, really, because he's sort of a name that wasn't familiar to those of us who play NA and EU for a while, he played, was it Taldaram and Owl in the same deck at one point? And there's a little bit of, who's this guy? Turns out that deck went really well. I think he won the tournament with it. And ever since then, he's just been on a tear. And although he didn't qualify in the APAC Summer Championships, somebody ran a simulation like of all the deck lists presented to work out who the favourite should be, based on various sites and such like. And he was top of that list.
Oh, wow.
So he brought the best lineup. And nobody can argue, because obviously this was a highly technical study.
Was it done by you?
No, on this occasion it was not. No, it was done by somebody far cleverer than me.
It's not hard.
So basically anybody but you.
All right, well, Jane has arrived to the party now, and things start to get a little bit more tricky for the United Kingdom, where they have to try and maneuver their way around this board as best as possible. Omega Assembly can be used for its value. Use it now before Geist comes down. This has worked out quite nicely. And, well, the Nullifier is actually pretty important here. A non-targetable minion is going to be extremely difficult to be removed by South Korea.
Yeah, they should be able to get rid of it, but it's not going to generate a water elemental along the way, and it will use up some resources, a lot of resources, like blizzard and flame strikes and hits from minions. Definitely going to be a little bit orcs.
Did you just short and awkward again, Loretta?
I didn't do it yesterday. I thought, you put the idea into my head.
Okay. I think, like, my 15-year-old cousin shortens awkward to orcs.
Okay.
Because that's what the kids do in school now.
I also, no, actually, maybe I won't go down that route.
So, like, I don't know if, like, you are hip enough, Lorinda, to be able to... Is there any other slang you use? I've never heard you use, like, slang.
Well, like fam or something.
Yeah. Nope, I'm done. Take me away. Take me home.
Gaskin's leaving. So this looks like Meteor Ping is the first thing they will see. But that means they do get to put the extra card back in their deck.
Yeah, I think that Toast Monster will be okay with that one. He's more than happy to sacrifice at least one minion and give away a water elemental if it means he gets an extra card and helps them in fatigue.
In fact, it feels deliberate. It feels like he's sort of saying, go on then, Meteor Ping this. We don't overly mind. He's getting very animated there, actually, Toast Monster.
Well, I mean, as I know Toast Monster feels this is an unfavourable matchup, but if he can find a victory, how good does that feel when you win what you think is an unfavourable?
So I tend to be a little tiny bit down on the UK team. Firstly, because I don't want to have UK casters saying how great the UK are. But secondly, because we haven't had fantastic international results, let's face it. But I do feel that this lineup with Toast, Green Sheep, Boar, and Jackie is a very imaginative team, and they've all got very different strengths. So Green Sheep's the aggro guy, Boar's just the solid guy. Toast is a very intelligent player. He finds unique ways to do things, and of course Jackie has his own take on everything. So I do feel this is the sort of match they could find ways to win.
I'd say a nullifier into nullifier is a pretty good way to win. If you can get a 6-16 on the board, that is going to be extremely difficult for that Rivius to be able to deal with.
They only get the 1 spark back, but it's good enough. Going to have some hand size issues on both sides fairly soon.
Well, now Eternium Rover into the nullifier is filthy because it's going to be generating armor every time that South Korea play some sort of removal, whether it's Flame Strike, whether it's Blizzard. And I don't think there are enough Flame Strikes, Dragon's Furies, Blizzards in the world to take down an Eternium Rover into nullifier into nullifier. That's going to be a 19 health minion.
That's going to be a bit difficult to deal with. Awkward.
It would be awkward, Neil. Because you can't polymorph it. What? Can you Voodoo Doctor it?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go then. Voodoo Doctor? I mean Voodoo Doll. Not Voodoo Doctor. You don't want to heal it back up.
Heal it back up then.
Oh, okay. You can Voodoo Doll it, yes. It can be targeted by another minion. Then it's not as good, is it?
It's not as good, but they've only got, I think, got 2.
So if you can...
They've got 2 dolls, yeah.
Debate out a couple of those Voodoo Dolls, then you feel comfortable.
Yeah, you've got to make it look like the other cards you got from your assembly are good. Unfortunately, one of them was a Rover. Go on then. Voodoo Doll this. Maybe not. I don't think it's particularly menacing.
The thing is, you don't want to play minions against your opponent, but at the same time, you don't want to be overdrawing because there are cards you still would like as the United Kingdom. You don't want to sacrifice some important cards like Elise, for example. If that disappears... Well, if that disappears, you're not going to be happy, are you?
I went to the magic show and got disappeared. Will that work? But no, you're not going to be happy at all, because Elise is probably the final thing they have left in terms of generating value. And this game's going to continue being a bit strange for a while now, because obviously Big Game Hunter and Brawl are reasons not to dump your Lich King down. And on the other side, we've already talked about it, the UK just trying to find a good spot to get their things down, and both teams are trying to keep their hand size under control at the same time.
And I think the most difficult thing about these games, and particularly when you are playing as a team, when there are 4 of you, there are so many options. Look at this hand right now. There are a wealth of things you could approach this turn with that it would take maybe hours to work out the optimal play in this scenario. You probably need robots to do that for you. But I guess the United Kingdom, some of those players may as well be robots. They are pretty good at Hearthstone.
Yeah, and you thin it down a bit by, even though you've got to be aware to things changing, the only general rules, but your Owl probably has a job assigned to it. Your Big Game Hunter probably has the job of killing off the Lich King or Cindergoes already assigned. So you can thin down the things to think about in the time, but you should always, there'll be somebody there, probably Jackie, awake to the fact that there might be a cheeky play available.
Well, Gluttonous Ooze certainly isn't that cheeky, but they have just analysed and said, well, we're not going to be destroying any weapons anytime soon, so let's
isn't that
put
a
onto the board. That is a fact.
Rich. Have you got any facts?
I didn't give you a South Korean fact, did I? Did you know in South Korea they have color-coded taxis, the range of colors according to the level of service that you're going to get?
Well, so you get it like in a brown taxi or a sort of
I think the
cute green taxi.
If it's like a grey taxi, then it's going to be someone who's new to taxi driving. They're not going to be that great. But then if you get further down and you get a more exciting color of taxi, it's going to be someone who's very experienced, kind of business. They've done it for their entire lives. You can have a good ride.
So you get like in a bright pink taxi with a cute cat on the side.
Then you know
you get the best, plushest ride. Yeah. He charges you a fortune.
And you know you're driving it because it will be like a Hello Kitty kind of a taxi or something.
Yeah, but if you get in like you say the grey one or something like that, you just end up going around in circles and he charges you like $1 million and then you just end up at where you started.
Pretty much. And I wonder what the point is where you are gifted a new colour taxi. At what point? Is it like a year's service, maybe?
When you haven't crashed for a week?
Yeah, potentially. And they're just like, here you go. Here is now a yellow taxi for you.
Oh.
Just a normal one, average.
Average. You're now average. Well done. That's cool. I like that. Remind me to check my taxi codes next time I'm in Korea.
The United Kingdom now, though, they are starting to get a little bit concerned probably about this board from South Korea. Because you don't need color codes to tell you how scary 2 water elementals is going to get across the next few turns.
You don't. It's going to get pretty nasty pretty quickly. Because although there's 26 armor now, there's a long way to go in this game. Even 6 damage a turn will soon whittle that down.
And this hero power as well, the dealing 1 damage to all minions, makes things very strange. You've got to try and work out when and if you even want to use it. Because it looks good, killing off your 3/1 so it can't be pinged, but then suddenly you make 2 1/1s that can be pinged.
And they have the full range of stuff in hand still as well with, well, they don't have the Blizz anymore, but they've got Dragon's Fury and the Flame Strike. Another thing we might see is anything they don't want Dragon's Fury, it might wait a long time because that card becomes useless later on. So this is a way of dealing with the water elementals, kind of. Because they can't deal with anything else apart from the doll. And again, not going all in on it, just baiting out the doll once. Maybe trying to get the second one to stick.
But as I said now, these Annoyatrons can just be pinged away if they would like. I mean, naturally you ping away the 3/1 first, but then afterwards you've got constant options. Or at least so you would think.
Well, they can allow the board to get out of control once, because the brawl's available. Second time, the second brawl might be reserved for Alana to some degree, so that's a bit awkward. I've got to find different words, because you smirk at me every time I say that now. But they do have like 1 extra life for the board with this brawl.
At least you've got some microbots that can deal with the Annoyatrons.
Yeah, what they really want is delivery drone, isn't it? Just to get themselves delivered another beryllium dude.
Double Dynamatic. That can be important later on.
Yeah, not so much now, but definitely later on. Maybe deal with 1 minion with them both. I think all they want to do is just keep getting more stuff in hand, but obviously hand size being restricted to 10 means they can't really do that. Okay. I feel this shield slam should be used pretty soon because the Geist is in the bottom 12, which means it's coming soon. Just cinnamon.
Yeah, it's whether they're thinking they want to be greedy and wait and potentially get it on a Lich King or a Sindragosa and then keeping back the BGH for the other one. But it is going to be Brawl number 1 having to be used now. Nullifier not surviving, unfortunately, but it is just a little Annoyatron. And that actually is quite annoying.
It really is one of the worst things that could have happened there, oddly enough. Because it's going to get pinged, as you described.
So you just use your rush to get rid of it with this Eternium Rover, gain some armor and say, okay, well, they can't ping this off.
Worth noting that they could have thrown that into the brawl to have more chance of winning the brawl themselves, but they held it back so that all the options were covered. Cute little play.
Two Fire Plume Phoenix.
Yeah, that's unusual.
In the mage. And I presume that is added for A, removal against aggro, and also B, is another way of chopping down a minion to 1 health and then being able to ping it off.
It is, and it's another elemental, so...
How many times do you use Blizzard to reduce a minion's health from 3 to 1 when you could just use a Fire Plume Phoenix?
A lot of the time, although not so much at this level. Players are pretty good at this level at playing around bad stuff happening. Getting a Dragon's Fury out of their hand, not in a hurry to do anything.
But something you do need to keep an eye on, if you're watching at home, is the right side of your screen, the 13 and the 11, the amount of cards that are left for both of these teams. Because this does have the potential to go all the way to fatigue.
In fact, it has more than the potential to go all the way to fatigue, I would say.
I mean, it would be probably a mistake from either side if it didn't go to fatigue.
Now, can they stick the beryllium down and get it faceless? Because that would be good. That's why making a third one. That's where Toast launched into life the second he saw this. If they can stick it on the board for 1 turn and make another one.
But there's still 2 Voodoo Dolls.
Yeah.
And also something that is worth considering, Mechathune can come into this matchup at some point.
Oh!
If this does go into fatigue, discovering a mech from your hero power, I have seen Mechathune actually be played.
I mean, it won a game yesterday, didn't it? I turned off at the last turn.
Mechathune... No, it did not. Mechathune Priest, unfortunately, was punished by a Swamp King Dread.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely check out HS Esports for that replay.
That was amazing. That was one of the best endings to a game I've seen for a long time. I just spoiled it for everyone. Well, you did. I tried to pretend it won.
But now this is probably how the next few turns are going to go. It's going to be a bit of a game of chicken. Who plays minions first?
But both teams have to do something. That's what makes it interesting. I was going to use that.
Well, in theory,
certainly what keeps it moving.
In theory, United Kingdom, they don't really have to. They are ahead on fatigue. As long as they don't allow South Korea to go too crazy with a bunch of water elementals, they can just wait.
But they haven't got the cards in hand that they want. They need to not burn that Elise, I feel, is one of the bigger deals here. So that's why maybe they've got to play stuff. They haven't actually. Neither side really has to do anything.
Although I don't think Elise is completely necessary to win this game. It certainly would help, but I'm not saying it's integral to your plan. I think the shuffling of the extra card is important in terms of fatigue, but what comes out of that pack, you might not even need it, because your hand is going to be relatively full anyway, because you're not going to have played that many minions.
Do get the feeling Toast has put a lot of work into this. He's a lot more animated than he has been in previous times we've seen him. Again, that's a bit more experience, a bit more confidence, but also I feel like he gets this matchup. Even though he doesn't like this matchup, I feel like he understands what he's trying to do. So he's putting a lot more into this than he has in one or two of his other matches.
I mean, it might be biased from me because Toast is the only one of the UK players on my friends list, so I see him playing quite a lot. But he is playing a lot of Hearthstone. He is on every single day. You played him the other day. And how did that go?
I beat him.
Oh, well,
my internet went down like just as I was delivering lethal and had to wait like 20 seconds. I had to message him saying, "I'm sorry, Toast."
I wish you hadn't said that.
Why?
Well, because now everyone knows that you beat Toast Monster, so they're just going to be thinking he's terrible.
Yeah, I think he queued like a deck for a bit of a laugh.
He was, I think he was actually testing opposition decks.
He was.
At that time. It's something that he definitely does.
Yeah, he actually was. He messaged me to say that afterwards. But I mean, this is a while ago at the start of the month. I'm sure he's now significantly above me.
Oh, this is nice.
Oh, nice.
This is what they wanted. They wanted these voodoo dolls to be used. Now they just need to get rid of one more voodoo doll, and then suddenly this beryllium nullifier can just potentially stick.
And this is where that armor's coming into play, not so much for defending their health total at the end, but it's just meaning they've got a little bit of time. They haven't got to panic. They've got that Reckless Flurry when their armor gets low enough as well. So that's an extra life. Again, I'll keep on about extra life because they're going to need them.
And I'm wondering, so we still, I believe there is one more polymorph left for Duckrivius.
Yep.
I wonder if they have in the back of their minds that Mechathune is a possibility at some point, and whether they hold back that polymorph just in case of an emergency.
I imagine it's somebody's job to have, like yesterday when we talked about that Rexar play.
Yes.
We were even saying at the time, it's somebody's job to know the silly bits of this. And I imagine that South Korea, it's somebody's job to sit there going, how do we lose? What stupid things can happen? What can I check? What might go wrong? So it's somebody's job to say, look, Mechathune is a thing that could happen to us here. Watch out.
These are just some patient turns from Toast Monster, as armor gain isn't that bad. They certainly wouldn't mind discovering some mechs a little bit later on, but right now, whilst their hand is full, being able to gain armor and just stay out of range, stay ahead on the fatigue game is going to be extremely important. And this big game hunter is just waiting for there to be a potential to actually take something down.
Want to see how South Korea approach the Cindragoza? Because as it stands, there's just no point, no way of getting it into your hand. But I want to see how they approach emptying maybe their hand a little bit to make space for it going forward. No hurry, of course.
And now we're seeing this benefit of the Fire Plume Phoenix.
Nice.
As we also see Thailand and Vietnam, they are tied up now at 1-1. Another elimination match.
Slowly too, must be some control stuff going on in that one.
I mean, when it comes down to elimination games, you are going to be taking your time. Every game counts. But also equally as important in this game, at both teams 3-1 in the Swiss, the chance to get to 4-1 and
yeah, lock it up basically.
Have that foot in the door for the last 16 is extremely important.
Last 16 is going to be double elimination groups.
Oh,
so last year it was single elim, which was a little bit, after all the work they did to get there, having single elim felt a little bit sort of, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit underwhelming.
So this year people said, hey, let's have double elimination. So Blizzard have tidied that up. Nice double elimination format this year.
Good opportunity to use the Reckless Flurry here, because you have the Hero Power afterwards to regain some of that armor. You've got to make use of the Reckless Flurry whilst you still can. And finding another Direhorn Hatchling really important for Toast.
And instantly just getting like the armor back, like you were saying. Ooh. Toast is super animated in this game. I feel like, you know how it happens in casting as well. Sometimes you just know that somebody knows the matchup absolutely perfectly. You just let them get on with it.
Yeah.
I feel like he is in that zone right now. He just knows this fairly peculiar matchup. I know it's not completely unplayed, but
I think these are the kind of matchups that you should be practicing, though, because if you're playing Odd Warrior on ladder, first of all, I hate you. Secondly, if you have to play these matchups you don't get on ladder. There is not very much control mage on ladder right now, let's be honest. It doesn't have that good matchups against other things.
But there is a little bit. So
a little bit.
You need to practice it.
You do. But no, but it comes
because you haven't played it on ladder
yes.
more than like
yes.
once. Right, I see what you mean.
Also, if you do play Odd Warrior, I don't hate you really. Because I play Quest Rogue.
Actually, I just hang out with the worst people, don't I? You play
yes.
Quest Rogue, Falk plays Odd Warrior, and he's having a bit of a stare at us right now.
It was a sad Falk. That was a very sad Falk that just walked in because he said, I play Odd Warrior.
What does Darok play? He's bound to play something obnoxious as well.
Darok usually plays Rogue, but he was a Miracle Rogue kind of guy.
Okay, that's a little bit more respectable.
I think, actually, for the past 2 seasons, Darok's been able to stay like top 500 with Miracle Rogue or something stupid.
Yeah, those people confuse me.
But now the Dynomatic is going to be able to finally get some value.
They've done a good job of getting something out of all of their cards.
Geist is there. It can finally destroy... Oh, wait.
It's late.
It's just going to be destroying, what, 1 Shield Slam?
Yeah. If any. But yeah, at most. We've seen both Omega Assemblies. Definitely seen at least 1 Shield Slam. It's getting to that point of the game where I haven't ticked off all the boxes on every card.
You're ticking off boxes? Oh yeah, you are. Okay.
I am now.
One day, someone will give me some form of like tracking ability whilst I'm casting. That'd be great.
Play Hunter?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be nice.
One day, someone will give me the opportunity to discover a better caster.
Wow.
Sorry, Dan, didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
It's fine. No.
Told you I'd get you later on. It's not really getting you, it's just outright being nasty.
That's
there
fine.
You go. You okay?
Yes.
Good. Decision time where they want to play the second Dynomatic here to tidy up the Doomsayer. Do they value having this little board or not? Also, do they value the fact that they not only make this little board, but they get stuff out of their hand? So they need to work out what this Dynomatic might be useful later. Some of the little sub-games that are going on here are kind of interesting. Look at the left-hand side of the hands, the cards that have been there the longest. This Owl was in the opening hand, and this Lich King was in a very early spot for South Korea. They're both just sitting there waiting for each other. And then the Big Game Hunter, which is also on the left-hand side of the hand now, sort of joined the fray with the Owl and said, I got this.
Yeah, I feel like Dacrivius wants to try and bait out the Big Game Hunter with the Syndragosa when he has the room in his hand to actually get some of those legendary minions back. And then he can have the freedom to put the Lich King on the board.
United Kingdom may have taken the decision not to walk into the Dragon's Fury because there's only 6 cards to go now. Wait till most of the spells have gone.
And we did see Toast Monster earlier get quite excited about Faceless, and we were like, maybe he might Faceless a Beryllium Nullifier. I mean,
but
Facelessing a Lich King after then playing Big Game Hunter, that seems quite nice.
That's some value too. And are you really scared of this Geist? I don't think you are. Especially now.
I mean, a 6/9... So, for Toast Monster, he's got a decision here. It's whether he feels like a 6/9 minion is more valuable than his Beryllium Nullifier. Because either of these minions could be just used to be destroyed by a Voodoo Doll.
There's only one left now, though. So if they can get rid of that one, I think they're going to hold on to this Nullifier. Is it me or they had a pretty bad run of boom hero powers? No delivery drones turning up.
There's only been, I think they've only had 2 Discovers. They've had quite a lot of armor gain, though, so I think they've been pretty happy. A few Microbots have chipped in here and there. And there we go. Now they get to Discover.
All this armor gain on the other side is going to happen at some point with the double Artificer into varying spells.
But this is a scary minion for Dacrivius. If he doesn't use something like Dragon's Fury or a Flame Strike here, even Flame Strike doesn't get the job done. So Dragon's Fury, hope to hit one of your big spells, but there's only 4 cards left. South Korea will know full well what is left, also so will the United Kingdom. I believe they haven't used their second Flame Strike, so there should be a Flame Strike still in there.
Second poly?
Polymorph is certainly in there as well, though, so that is scary. You don't want to be using Dragon's Fury and just taking it down to a 4-1 and not being able to deal with it. So maybe you just Blizzard and you set up for a Flame Strike next turn.
Yeah, here comes the arm again. But Dynamatic number 2 tidies these up nicely. Making sure that nothing can collide, but also the drone is here, Elise is here, the cards have arrived.
You see, when I spoke to Toast, he said that he feels like there is just more value in the cards that the South Korea have. The fact that they have the Geist as well, it's going to make some impact. But you look at some of these cards available for the UK. Zola, Faceless Manipulator, Elise. Like, the sheer amount of value is insane here.
I mean, you and I's very first instinct, like the 2-second instinct, was the Warrior seems good.
Well, yeah,
and then the more we spoke about it, the more we talked to people about it, the more it's like, the Mage has more value. But you're saying these cards are making good value.
What the United Kingdom have done well is they have stopped there being too many wide boards of water elementals, and they've not allowed it to get under control. They've been very patient with what they put onto the board. They've known exactly what they wanted to remove and when they wanted to remove it.
And I don't feel like they've high-rolled particularly with the mech generation either. Like the first Omega Assembly just got them a rover. That was the best of the 3 cards. Obviously the Geist coming very late for Rivius was a big deal. But they both got their Death Knights down, and all the way back to turn 7 we were talking about, do they just go for the value from Boom? Look at the value he's generated over the course of the next 4 million turns. It's been so much.
But now I'm really struggling to see where South Korea go from here. They're going to need something pretty big from Sindragosa, I feel, because they are running out of impactful minions. And the answers are already in the hand for United Kingdom.
And they are the ones who are going to have to do it, are South Korea, because of the fatigue massively favours Dr. Boom, and also the fact that they will get some armour occasionally. Elise, there's so much value here. But let's not underestimate Sindragosa, the Lich King.
We have to look at the important parts of this game. For example, picking up another Direhorn Hatchling off Stonehill Defender, very important for Toast Monster, being able to shuffle another minion back in.
There's at least a Giggling Inventor left, I think, for South Korea. Just looking what I can find. Second Phoenix, maybe?
Yep, second Phoenix should be there. And then the Polymorph.
But the UK do have so much value here. And they know the Polymorph's not in the deck right now. Sorry, is in the deck right now.
It's not in the hand, yeah. Well, it wasn't.
Here it is.
And so that is nice for Dacryvius. He does have the option now to Polymorph and stop this Direhorn Hatchling and help with this fatigue plan, but is Lich King and Sindragosa going to be enough? Like, okay, so there is one answer. There is a big game hunter for one of those 8/8s.
That doesn't look like fun, does it, because of the faceless play?
Yeah, exactly.
So Sindragosa is going to have to make a good minion with Alana not being able to stick.
And that is the plan for South Korea. I think they're on the back foot. And if I'm honest, I feel like the United Kingdom have had this matchup sussed from turn 1. They were fortunate they were able to get Omega Assemblies out before
yeah, and the Slam.
The Geist, and get the Shield Slams out as well.
Dr. Boom on 7.
But they took those risks. They waited for that second Omega Assembly on turn 10. They
kept the other one in their hand.
Yeah.
Kept the first one in their hand, and they took the chance with the second one because they knew there was no Geist in hand almost certainly. And there goes the Voodoo Doll. So anything big like a Bulldozer that arrives now is going to stick around for a while. Obviously, there's that one Meteor left. And South Korea have done everything that Toast Monster said they would as well, like the Polymorphs on the
Hatchlings.
On the Hatchlings, thank you. I was thinking Matriarchs, but you wouldn't do that.
Well, you're polymorphing and getting rid of the Matriarchs.
Exactly.
So, whether this is... I mean, this Reckless Flurry now in hand offers another way of dealing with either Sindragosa or Lich King. So they have the Big Game Hunter and they have Reckless Flurry. So UK in a really good spot.
Yeah, the Ravens can't be played 2 at a time, and if they ping off the Raven, it gets super collided. So there's no... I'm just looking at how South Korea can make 3-6s. Obviously, there's 2 available, potentially from Syndragoza, because they win with Water Elementals if they're going to win this. Unless Syndragoza goes insane and just makes another Syndragoza into another one. And then maybe a 4th.
Ah. But if we're thinking this is a second Giggling Inventor and a second Fireplume Phoenix left, then maybe you can start playing Raven Familiars at some point.
Yep. Are they trying to make space for some Elise shenanigans here? Because that looks like a weird potential play, or are they just representing something else?
Yeah, it looked like they were just trying to get rid of hand size.
But definitely want to get rid of one of these 0-1s here, or at least get rid of the potential to make it into a legendary and a water elemental.
But now with that Reckless Flurry used,
yep.
How are you dealing with the Syndragoza?
And this is the question we were talking about earlier. Maybe it's going to be the Faceless Big Game Hunter play and have to use the Owl on the Lich King. And that's a Gruul. That's actually a pretty big minion to get right now. Because you can get some stinkers from these 0-1s.
What's the Bulldozer in hand? The 9...
9-7?
So that has Rush. That has Rush and that can kill with an 8-8. So that looks pretty nice to me.
Okay, yeah. Then.
Numbers line up, story checks out.
You can also, with this hero power, if you're not using the Bulldozer, you can use the hero power to kill off the 0-1, so that the ping's not going to be as easy for Dagrivius. But Gruul is a pretty big minion to find off of the first random legendary card.
And I feel this is the crux of the game right here. Now there's only 3 cards left in the entire decks from both players.
Yeah.
Because this Owl, South Korea have done a good job giving it multiple jobs.
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
Bulldozer.
I mean, if Dagrivius can find 2 minions to this, like similar to Gruul, it's going to be quite difficult for Toast Monster to be able to kill those minions comfortably.
So he's decided he isn't going to silence, he's just going to give them the Ixlid, and get on with it so he doesn't have to worry about the Owling anymore. At least he gets rid of the 3-6 potential.
Ixlid into Giggling Inventor? No.
Bulldozer does have some absolutely stunning art, by the way. It's just a bulldozer. I like it.
It's clever. Got to say, I have been impressed with the artwork in general in this this expansion.
Yeah, even, I mean, going back quite a way now, the art's been fantastic.
So now the plan here for Dagrivius is go wide with these water elementals, try and force out, what, Brawl number 2, I think, from Toast Monster. That might be the last card. Maybe he's used both already, actually. I
think he did have both earlier. I can't remember what the second one was used on, but it was a while ago.
But now with the Reckless Flurry used on just one of the water elementals, things start to get more difficult. So I was saying that South Korea are on the back foot, but the fact they have Lich King, Gruul, waiting in the wings.
I think it might be another Super Collider left in deck.
Ah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, this army of 3-6s is going to get pretty terrifying pretty quickly, and this has always been the problem they were trying to deal with. And that value they had a moment ago is just starting to get whittled away from nowhere, really, because Rivius hasn't had much going on for a while. But unfortunately, that's how Warrior works. It hasn't got much going on either. I feel that these decisions are absolutely key now. The Faceless, the Big Game Hunter, and the Owl. What gets used where is absolutely massive.
Positioning for Meteor, really important.
Just a bit. Okay, that seems decent. Flame Strike ping looks rather good here, though.
Armor gain for Toast Monster once again. I'm not sure. I think he wants that Discover quite potentially.
They haven't had it many times at all. Maybe 3 in the whole game, I feel. And that's been.
Yeah, you've got to remember what Dr. Boom was played on 7, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you only get sort of 20 goes at it, maybe 15. So you're only expecting 3 or 4 of each. But I feel like they've had armor and the 1-1s a lot.
And armor isn't bad. Like
armor's fine.
But just right now, when they're starting to realize that actually the value from South Korea is going to start raining down sooner rather than later, they need answers. They need something to put Ziliax onto.
I'm looking at what they're going to Zola as well. Might Zola Elise.
Time melts away.
Potentially.
Just keep putting those packs in your deck. Depends how much value they feel they need.
But Fatigue now going to start chipping away at Duckrivius. No Arcane Artificers to regain any armor at this point. So a lot of intricate decisions coming up of what removal we need to save, how we need to try and best get ourselves some water elementals.
Here is the army of water elementals. An army of everything, because they know there's no more AoE.
And Super Collider's being frozen every turn. You can't silence your own face, well, unless you play another Death Knight, and we know there's not one of those left.
It just shows how hard this matchup must be, because for the longest time it looked like the UK was just getting outvaluing Korea, but Korea's managed to generate one too many boards. So far, Elise might sort that out.
Elise can change it. I discovered Mech can change it. But then it's the follow-up of Gruul and Lich King now.
Yeah, I don't think... I mean, obviously, it's the fact they've got them both is the issue. They can deal with one, with this big game hunter, and neither side knows each other's hand, despite the fact they've got no cards left, just because of the... Actually, have the UK used all of their generated cards? Perhaps they have.
Yes, I believe they have.
So Korea do have full information, whereas the UK do not. Because sometimes those cards are just Millhouse and Blood Mage Thalnos or something. In fact, whenever I get it, it's always Blood Mage Thalnos in this situation.
And it looks like, Zola is going to be plopped onto Elise here. And one thing that the armor gain is doing is it's keeping the United Kingdom alive and allowing them to actually withstand this damage that's coming out from the water elementals. And Duckrivius needs to be sending at least one water elemental to face every turn to stop Super Collider punishing him.
Oof, this turn though. That's their final AoE gone from the other side. We're talking about the AoE that Toastmonster hasn't got available anymore. But now Rivius also hasn't got any available as well. And the UK, if they can somehow deal with this one last board, which, I mean, might not even be possible, maybe they can still get it done.
You're praying to Ungaro now at this point.
So how much of their hand do they want to empty before they play the pack? Obviously the answer is as much as possible.
This would be a good time for
But it's emptying out your hand and not offering up the potential for any more water elementals is the scary thing. You know a Fire Plume Phoenix is in the hand, so it means you can't just throw out a Gluttonous Ooze, otherwise that's just going to turn into another water elemental. The Ziliax is kind of awkward as well here.
Yeah.
So maybe you're just having to at least back a pack, play Unguro.
This jungle hides many.
Ziliax just get rid of the 3/3 because you're just dumping your hand.
And it does have lifesteal as well.
Unity, precision, perfection.
And typically 3/2s are difficult to be able to deal with in terms of actually trying to generate any sort of ping off of it.
And they are doing well in this fatigue game, the United Kingdom. If they can stabilise, they will win. But we knew that from the very, very start. It's just the stabilising that's the tough bit. They've almost run Korea out of threats, although, like you've just pointed out a minute ago, this Gruul is going to be...
Grueling.
Yeah.
But still, the microbots, they're not doing much, are they?
I don't want to sound like I'm biased, because I'm actually not. I'd like the United Kingdom to win, but I like Korea as a team too. But the United Kingdom have apparently rolled pretty low, I think, on these Dr. Boom hero powers.
I would have to agree. I think the armor gain's been good, but the microbots have turned up quite a few times. Although the microbots were useful earlier. Killing off some Annoitrons has been important for them.
But is that important? I mean, it's important, but is it as important as having a card that is another bulldozer or
discovering
another nullifier?
A big mech that can try and swing this board back in their favour is really important.
Well, they'd just freeze Cthulhu anyway if it turned up, I think.
But if South Korea don't attack... Okay, they are going to use the Fire Plume Phoenix, that's fine. So if they don't attack face with one of their water elementals, this could get ugly.
I think it's pack time. So hold on to your horses, as the phrase goes. See what the United Kingdom can open in their first 4 cards. I don't think there's any need to be mega greedy and go for 5 cards here. Because they get another pack the next turn, so they're going to want to start dumping the first lot of cards, I feel, immediately.
King Mosh Unguro? So you could get King Mosh from this pack. Obviously, you can't play it this turn because you want to use the microbots to just actually trade off and weaken all the minions. But maybe next turn you could play King Mosh and clear a board.
Just junk.
Giant Anaconda would just pull Hemet onto the board.
A Stego Donkey. It's like a dinosaur donkey.
It's not a nice combination, really, is it?
No.
And these aren't the cards that Toast Monster would have been looking for. They're not the ways back into this game. Although you do have to remember that Dagriviz is taking a considerable amount of damage per turn, but look at the amount of lifesteal available for him.
Yeah, he's not going to be below 30 anytime soon, but the armor's going to get removed, and they still have the Gruul and Lich King combo left. But slowly but surely, the minions are disappearing from the other side of the board. Very slowly. And the United Kingdom are going to start taking their own fatigue. That's another giant problem.
And you saw the decision there of where they put that final microbot, which was really important. And now Ixlid is going to be very awkward. If Toast Monster doesn't have a way of dealing with Ixlid, then suddenly you're going to be looking at 2 Lich Kings or 2 Gruuls next turn.
They've got 2 Owls, though, luckily for the United Kingdom. Well, not luckily, they put them there. So I imagine this is an auto target. But what do you play? How do you empty this hand out? You really urgently want to open this second pack.
Well, you can start throwing things on the board now.
You can actually owl your Hemet. He like turns into a 6/1. You don't want to give them 1 health. You can owl the
but you
Hemet.
can owl the Hemet and then you can charge and you can kill something off.
Yeah. Get rid of another water early. Because they're the ones dealing the damage. They're stopping your opponent from dying. It's quite a big deal. And they're stopping you from getting your Super Collider in action.
So maybe owl yeah, but you are leaving these 2 ones on the board. But yeah, you've got minions. You have the ability to actually contest this board now, thanks to that pack.
Job's done.
Yeah, you can't ping all of these things at once, so that's fine.
Zap is good.
Oh. Why can't we start the game here? This is really interesting now.
I mean, to be fair, as control matchups go, this has been one of the most entertaining that I've seen in HGG thus far.
It's because we haven't seen it before. That helps a lot as well. The taxis are long gone. Apart from the grey ones, which are probably still going around in circles.
I must decide.
And the United Kingdom know now that Lich King is definitely in the hand for South Korea, but they have no idea of what this second card is.
Yeah, they might be under the assumption it's a bad card as well. Because you do get a decent number of bad cards, but they will be prepared for the worst if they can.
Still, the freeze to face is happening. Dagriviz knows that he has to be doing that.
Yeah, if he doesn't do that, I think he just ends up in trouble because the water elementals freeze each other and oh.
The time is now.
South Korea look reluctant to play one of these big minions, but they are going to plop him onto the board now. It is going to be the Lich King, which will generate them 1 card. And they'll be wanting something significant. Something like a Frostmourne would be incredible. Anti-magic shell is pretty big
that's
too.
pretty good. By pretty good, I mean absurdly strong. The United Kingdom are going to clean up so much of this board now, but that anti-magic shield is going to make life miserable for them in the coming turns.
It really is. That's going to be 2 5/8s on the board after this turn.
United Kingdom trying to work out, they've obviously got to zap something. Have they got time for the Igneous, or do they need to pack now? I think they're going to pack now. They might have to pack now and go home if this carries on, to be honest.
Okay, then.
Lyra,
Double
no
Lyra
spells
with
left.
no spells isn't going to be very good.
That's nasty.
They are not some good options.
Imagine they had some spells left. Then there'd be good options, but they haven't. Like saying, imagine they didn't bring Warrior at this point.
Now you are praying for your Dr. Boom hero power. What's going to be next for them? Armor gain is not the worst, but anti-magic shell is going to really rub salt in the wounds here.
They've only got to decide, well, only decide whether they want to shell first or shell later. Working out all the responses. If you shell now, you lose 1 to the owl. But if you gruel now...
Well, I mean, we can see United Kingdom's hand. How do they deal with Gruul? But South Korea have just seen 2 Unguro packs, so that's pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, I think Unguro packs tend to be a little bit weak, but not in terms of what is needed at the end of one of these matches. But they usually provide you the oomph you need to just re-establish. But the problem is the mage has kept control of this Super Collider for so long.
The time is
2 cards to choose between, and Korea having a difficult time with it. Hearthstone's hard, kids.
Well, this is an extremely difficult decision because there's no way for them to generate another Water Elemental this turn, but an Anti-Magic Shell onto Gruul potentially next turn is fantastic.
Yeah, Toast is not impressed with this Gruul.
Yeah, I mean, as you said earlier, that could have been a Blood Mage Thanos, and then suddenly it's an unplayable card. As elsewhere, Thailand now take a 2-1 lead over Vietnam in a elimination match off stream.
When did they last get a delivery drone? I think they've had one in like the last 15 turns is my estimate.
Certainly hasn't been many. And now with 14 power already on board, which is going to be 15 next turn, plus Anti-Magic Shell, which is going to be 21.
Throw out a taunt. You've got to silence the Gruul and hope that the Lich King card is a bad one and that the last turn taking forever was a bluff. Then the hope category, that never ends well.
It doesn't.
Unless you hope for Swamp King Dread when you're playing against me. And that ended really well.
And Toast Monster does give up. It's been a really grueling game from Toast Monster. He tried his best, and I've got to appreciate every line of play he took, but unfortunately the Gruul was a big influence in that matchup. Of course, Anti-Magic Shell would have been helpful towards the end. And maybe, just maybe, if they got a couple of Discovery drones down the line, there was a chance. But now you can see why Toast Monster felt that that was a somewhat unfavourable matchup. But he gave it his all.
He did, and I feel like he won many mini battles in there, but they didn't go his way even when he did, like the turn 1 Omega Assembly.
He had a lot of mini bots that game, that's for sure.
Definitely had a lot of mini bots. We sound really bitter, don't we?
Well, I do.
Of course, Dan is.
They are my pick, so I'm allowed to be bitter.
South Korea's Ravens pick. I'm bitter too now.
Let's have a look at the matchup and see what's going to be coming up next then, as I'm sure those players are going to be wiping the sweat off their eyebrows because that was a long one indeed. But it's going to be Ball Control now taking the reins with Druid going up against Suni and his Hunter. And I believe it's a token Druid rather so than a Malygos Druid.
Oh.
And it is going to be a Hunter available for Suni. Just double checking the Druid. Yes, it is. It is going to be token Druid as
Nothing to see.
Neil scribbles out some notes. But I think Token Druid, well, they can do fairly well against the Hunter, I would say. And there's been a lot of Token Druid being brought to playoffs, for example. As a reminder, playoffs are this weekend on this exact channel. The European playoffs, I believe?
Yes.
Yes, it is, rather than the North American playoffs.
It's European first, and then it's going to be the APAC ones with all these South Korean players in. The European ones only have Ball Control and Green Sheep in from the UK. And then the third week's that other place.
United States?
No.
Oh.
The Americas.
Oh, the Americas. Okay, sorry. That's does include more than just the United States.
It certainly is with Brazil at 5-0.
Oh, yeah, can't really argue against that.
Yes.
All right, well, we're waiting a few minutes for the players to get ready, so it's fact time, Neil.
Oh, you got more?
Oh, I do have a couple more, yeah.
Let's go for the United Kingdom.
United Kingdom again. Did you know, Neil, that when you turn 100, you get a personalised card from the Queen?
I've still got it.
So, damn, why'd you ruin my joke? But yeah, that's quite nice. It used to be a personalised letter, but now it is just
telegram in the old days.
Yeah, telegram. But now it's just a personalised card. So only a few years and you'll get one.
There must be quite. Do you know how many people are 100 in the United Kingdom? Did you go that far?
9, 3, 2, 1. No.
Didn't go that far, because imagine the Queen sitting there all day going, "Happy birthday."
I've got to say that
100-year-old person.
I don't imagine the Queen actually writes the cards herself.
It says personalised.
Yeah, well, I reckon she signs it, or at least like she's got a signature and she just like copies and pastes it. On
a royal
Photoshop.
seal.
Yeah, maybe just puts her thumb on a little stamp or something like that.
That is quite a nice fact. I didn't know what you were going to come up with about a country that we live in. What about a country we don't live in?
South Korea. They are sweet potato crazy, Neil. Every single dish that you could imagine, there is some form of sweet potato ingredient added to it in South Korea.
And we had the potatoes from Belarus yesterday.
We did.
And sweet potatoes from Korea.
Sweet potato, yeah. Desserts, lattes, breads, they've all got sweet potato in. Salads, cereal, candy.
Sweet potato candy.
Because they just like sweet potato. I'm not talking like every dish in South Korea, by the way, but just like you can
Potato
find
sushi.
a dish of pretty much anything that has sweet potato in. Potato, probably. Yes, sweet potato sushi does exist.
Korean barbecued potato.
Yes, exists. Name,
At some point I'm going to say something that just
fact
blatantly
says-
doesn't exist, and you're going to agree.
fact says every dish, Neil.
Every dish.
Yep. Cereal, desserts, anything.
Imagine potatoes and milk for cereal.
Okay.
Now,
But
now imagine you didn't
It could
have
just
that.
be the ingredient. It could just be like a sweet
Right.
potato dusting or something like that on top. But I am hearing that the players are just having a little bit of problems, so we are going to go for a very short break. But when we come back, I won't be talking about sweet potatoes. Instead, I'll be talking about the Hearthstone that's going to be on the screen. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back very shortly. South Korea are 2-1 up against the United Kingdom after winning with their control mage against the Odd Warrior. It was a hard-fought game from Toast Monster, but in the end, he wasn't able to get over the line. And now we move into game number 4, which is going to be Death Rattle Hunter against the Token Druid, which maybe a pretty even matchup in comparison to the last one.
Yeah, the Token Druid can just do its thing, then the game will end pretty quickly, and it doesn't need to plan too hard. But also, on the other side of it, as soon as you can just get an early egg, make a whole horde of 5/5s, how does the Token Druid get to do its thing? No wild growth, no egg. 2 things to look out for there, I guess, at the start.
Yeah, I think these are the 2 matchups coming up that the United Kingdom felt like were 50-50s, and they did have the chance of winning the series. If anyone can get a win, you've got to imagine Ball Control can get a victory here.
Ball Control has become an incredibly well-respected player over the last sort of 6 to 9 months, I say, since he started streaming full-time, joining F2K, working alongside Fino and Glazer, 2 very powerful players, of course.
Yeah, I remember when he started his stream, he was only like, what, 10, 15 viewers at first, and then it skyrocketed. Now he gets an average of a few hundred, if not more, every time he streams.
We've, like, jibed him about the empty trophy cabinet every time here, and now he's put things alongside the Seat Story trophy.
That's probably
Just so it
wise.
doesn't look empty. We've probably just, like, bullied him into putting things on that.
They're
shelf.
actually a fact here. They're all of his notes on the playoffs coming up this weekend.
All of his playtesting.
Exactly. As the signature temple rub already beginning for Ball Control.
Yeah, I mean, he already has a decision to make about how to build a wide board, because if Rexar, you can't just Whispering Woods and not have a backup plan, because Rexar will just wipe it out. However, if you Whispering Woods and it doesn't get wiped out, you do kind of well. So one of the things he needs to do here is establish this Violet Teacher and get the right number of minions without being wasteful from her. Whatever the right number may be, I'm sure Ball will teach us. But Suni's hand is grim right now. It can soon become very good, though, with this Stitched Tracker.
Yeah, Stitch Tracker is something that has been less popular in Hunter. It's fallen out of quite a lot of decks as Neil sighs as a wild growth is drawn and reminds him of his days on ladder facing druids, and they always get wild growth.
Yeah, the Centaur on 2 is just so good.
But this, oh,
And that reminds Dan of his days on ladder.
It's all just come flooding back, Lorinda. But Stitch Tracker into an egg would be great. There it is. But also Shaw. Shaw is so good in pretty much any matchup, to be honest. But
very difficult to remove and does a lot of work.
Yeah.
But
I think with this hand that you have, Blade Air, Terrascale Stalker already available.
And time is of the essence here. We already said that. If you let the Druid do its thing too quickly, Shaw is fantastic. But he's a little tiny, he's not that slow, but he's a little tiny bit slow, because turn 5 would be a bit mediocre. And Boy's just going for it, because he's got the branching path now.
Yeah, and this is where it gets scary for the Hunter, because you have no way of dealing with this wild board. You can wild board
Control.
You can only attack into 1 minion.
And Rexar's 2 turns away. And it's not even in hand either, just to emphasise. So the pickup of the Arcane Tyrant makes the Nourish a far more attractive proposition.
And I mean, I say it's scary, but it's really scary. If you imagine that Savage Roar, Coin Savage Roar is entirely a possibility this turn, South Korea could just be down to, what, 1 health if that were to happen? I mean, we can see it's not there for the United Kingdom, but there's something you are just hoping there isn't available in your opposition's hand.
Got to plan what they want to do with this Nourish, because double Violet Teacher with a coin available can just refuel a board so fast. But how do you weave in this Nourish? You also, in some worlds, want to Nourish for more cards, because you haven't got more cards. The game might not get to turn 10 for Infestation. You'd love, like you said, a Savage Roar. Lots to consider here.
So you can punch your opponent for 15 if you'd like to this turn with branching paths.
Nourish for mana feels obviously the most natural option to me, but they're going to punch for 15. That is a lot of damage.
Well, once again, only 2 of these minions can be removed from Sunni as far as ball control is aware for what's on the board. So that's going to leave at least 9 power left on the board. They have a hero power and they have swipe. How much does that leave you with?
Good point. Don't know, how much does it leave you with?
14.
Okay. But this is the response.
But a Savage Roar off the top, well, is just game. That's what the Token Druid can do, and that is why we are seeing so many teams bringing Token Druid to playoffs. And from one of the longest games this week in the global games to one of the quickest, as ball control gives a thumbs up, and also probably a face that can be turned into an emote for his stream.
He already has enough of those, I think. Boy is a man of many faces. A bit like you.
Don't know what you're talking about.
You've already got 2.
Don't really know what that meant, but sure. All right, it's 2-2 then. We've tied it up. I say we. I just said we.
You did, but you have picked them as well. It's not just because you're from the United Kingdom. You picked the United Kingdom for this title.
Yeah. Well, I did see Ukraine lose yesterday, so I do want the UK to still win so that I'm top of the caster picking leaderboards, because I was there at the start of the week. Let's have a look at the final match then. It's going to game number 5 in this series, and it's going to be another 50-50, I feel. It's going to be Shudderwock Shaman on Stilo, and it is going to be the odd aggro Paladin for Green Sheep, which can go either way.
Yeah, there's no Pyromancer basically ever in Shudderwock in this tournament, because there's not enough aggro to make it really worth people's while. I know I keep saying that, but you go through the deck list, there's odd Paladin, that's about it most times. Even odd Rogue seems to have made way for Quest Rogue. So why would you have a Pyromancer hanging about?
Yeah, we kind of developed our own meta with the global games, as we did last year, of where people are bringing slightly different things to necessarily playoffs that we're seeing this weekend. Although we are seeing smidgens of like a hybrid crossover, like Token Druid, for example. It's highly popular coming up this weekend. But I'm pretty happy with how the global games meta has developed.
It is developing each week. It's just developing slower than the tournament meta. So the Token Druids probably could have got away with coming in a week ago when the Quest Rogues and all the other slow stuff started to really sneak in. But they've taken till now, and you just saw how good that was against the Hunter.
Yeah, and how quick it was. And I think it was so quick that Sunni's not even ready to play yet. So it means, Neil, you get to have another fact.
You've got more?
I have one more. I have one more United Kingdom fact. Because I wanted to try and find facts in the United Kingdom that you didn't know. You knew the Stonehenge one because you helped build it, but Europe have the tallest building in the world, and it's in the United Kingdom. Which building would that be, Neil?
I want to say the Shard, but I don't think it's
It is the Shard. That is correct, yeah. 2012, the Shard was built.
How big is it?
It's 1,150 feet tall.
1,000, what's that in meters?
I'm not a robot, Neil.
It's about 375.
Is it? I don't know. I don't measure things in meters. When we grew up in school, we measured them by foot or centimeters and millimeters,
ruler.
Which actually is meters, isn't it? It's
we measure things in feet, inches, and millimeters.
Yeah, which I guess is a form of meters. But yeah, I mean, this fact was true as of like 2 years ago, so there might have been a bigger building built in Europe by this time. And if it has, let me know on Twitter. Tweet me, @DanGaskin. I'd love to hear your facts.
You'd be annoyed, wouldn't you, if you built the biggest building somewhere and someone just like added a bit onto the top of another one to make it a little bit taller than yours?
That probably happens. That's probably
Can
a
you
thing
imagine
that
that's
people
like,
do.
yeah.
Although I imagine there's a lot of health and safety around that, and you have to fill out various risk assessments before you can do so. Speaking of risk assessments, I'm sure both of these players will be assessing these opening mulligans and trying to maneuver their way into finding a victory for their team and getting to 4-1 in this Swiss.
Yeah, Green Sheep has been good with Paladin decks since Paladin decks existed, which is a long time.
Since the start of the game, I believe.
Yeah, basically. Always awkward to... Why do I keep saying awkward? It's you pretending that I say orcs.
Maybe you just are a little bit awkward yourself.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Especially around you. I feel a bit uncomfortable. A lot of the play comes from the side of the Shaman here, deciding exactly what they need to kill, what they need to freeze, at the same time trying to advance their strategy. But you very rarely see this go all the way to the Shadow Walk. You basically see the Shaman kill everything, land a couple of minions, and the Paladin give it up. If it goes that way.
It's all going down off stream. Thailand and Vietnam, they're tied up at 2-2 as well, and that is an elimination game. One of those teams will be eliminated from the global games after this. But for Stilo, he's found like a lot of his early game. This Earthshock is going to just tidy up this board comfortably, and then he has Keleseth to follow. Really nice way. Amazing how quickly the game gets out of control if you don't take very early, apparently pretty bad value plays like that. It's just killing a 1-1. I know it takes 2 hits, but you'd feel that wouldn't be a problem. But it can just get out of control so quick. But South Korea don't have Lightning Storms, for example, which are extremely important in this matchup. But Keleseth into Acolyte of Pain, I mean, and then Life Drinker, just having early tempo can be so important because it just allows to stall so that you can find those little bits of removal. And Acolyte of Pain is beautiful. Obviously, we can see there are ways for Green Sheep to deal with it easily, but killing off minions and drawing cards is spectacular because it gets them near that healing rain that they might need to stabilize. Because the Shaman quite often gets very low on health and is worrying about Vine Cleavers and naughty stuff like that, and then just healing rains out of sight. However, if there isn't a Lightning Storm found, you might notice that Green Sheep should have been sending everything face. He didn't make the trade and kill off the 2-2 there because level up is in hand. He's going to want to keep as many of these Silver Hand recruits alive this turn. Ooh. So actually, no. Lost in the Jungle and Void Ripper is quite nice here. You can trade off the Mecharoo into the 2-1, then play the Void Ripper, kill off the Acolyte, and then play Lost in the Jungle, and you still have 5 Silverhand recruits next turn. Yeah, do you play the Lost in the Jungle? I think that's the big question. Yes. You do? I mean, you're playing heavily into Lightning Storm, but at the same time, if they don't have Lightning Storm, you potentially have a win right there. Okay. Yeah, you can back up with Giggling Event if they do Lightning Storm you. Go kind of down the route that Korea went down earlier. Obviously, theirs was a better position, but where you save the level up until a lot later. I guess the scary factor is that left card, the far sight that's been kept from Stilo. That could be a Lightning Storm. If you're thinking, what would my opponent keep in their hand? Lightning Storm, very likely. The Earthshock they already saw was one of the keeps. So you've got to be a little bit concerned about what that might be. So maybe a Lost in the Jungle is an overcommitment. You're right, Neil. We'll see what the United Kingdom think. And so they think that they need to do it because they only have 2 dudes left and it's going to be a long time before they have a better position, and looks good for them right now. Although Keleseth doing plenty of work on this chain gang. Yeah, that's not so good. As level up isn't as tasty now. This raid leader looks a little bit better because it can deal with these minions more comfortably. Yeah, the numbers match up just nicely, which is always a massive factor when deciding how to trade stuff. Playing around the Lightning Storm just a smidge here by keeping your 4-3 alive. Yep. You are in a very good position if a Lightning Storm is not found here. Quite a lot, though, that South Korea can do, including Hagatha at some point. So they'll be thinking about how do we get to turn 7, not be overloaded, and not give up too much ground. Then Hagatha wiping out a board. And with that in mind, that means they can be a little bit frivolous, I'm going to say it again, with their removal. They just need to not die until then, and they should be in a great spot. Because Shaman spells are really good at dealing with piddly minions. Things like Forked Lightning, the cards that you normally don't want, actually turn out really good against Paladin. This Argent Squire is a really important pickup from Green Sheep, because level up would have just played into Volcano here, leaving, what, 15 health left on board? Yep. Maybe 16, 12... 13, 16. But the Argent Squire just adding more anyway and making it just a little bit more difficult for Volcano to deal with. No, it would have been, yeah, it would have been less. Wait, hold on. 3, 6, 9, 10, 13. It doesn't actually, the Argent Squire is still 15. It's not as important as I first thought. And for that reason, Green Sheep is saying, I'm not going to commit to level up just yet. Yeah, especially now they've got the Vine Cleaver hanging around as well. Vine Cleaver, then the next turn you can Hero Power and level up and get yourself another board. Is often very important. Are they looking at Electra into... What are they looking at into? I feel like you've seen one card was kept from the UK, so you have to Farsight, you have to look for an answer, and if you don't find that answer, you're probably playing Healing Rain. Yeah, I think they wanted to Electra Farsight, and then they realised that was just a little bit grim.
because they would be dead to so many things.
It's going to be 18 health available, 18 damage available for Green Sheep next turn with level up.
See how they might be keeping this Farsight here, so that next turn they can play Electro Farsight, draw 2 cards. That would look pretty good. Or maybe not next turn, maybe the turn after Hagatha, but...
Or even Electra into double Lightning Storm, for example, might be needed if they are concerned about this level up. United Kingdom just not taking it? It would seem like... I mean, no, this looks like a pretty nice level up to be taking.
Well, it is. But the healing rains complicate things a little bit. If you level up and get Hagatha next turn, that's the thing they're worried about, and it is there. Coin Hagatha is just so bad if you lose your level up. You can hit your opponents for 13 now? 12. Because frogs don't hit. And then next turn you can hit for 4 more and hero power and level up and get 4 3/3s.
And this is why...
forces the Hagatha anyway.
This is why Green Sheep is so well known for his aggro play. Because he does take all of these decisions and he just tries to get the best possible result from them.
Because it looks wrong, I agree with you, it looks weird, but then you think about it, it's like, oh, okay, he's played around this, then next turn he just reloads. It's going to be close though, because Stilo is going to get some decent spells, most likely. Again, spells you don't normally like with Shaman, because you're trying to deal with big stuff, can just turn into a nuisance.
But now if you want, you can get 4 3/3s as a response, or you can just put them behind a Giggling Inventor.
Yeah.
Again, just playing around potential removal.
Volcanoes, lightning storms, all that good stuff.
Good stuff that South Korea doesn't currently have.
They don't, and that's the problem. They're actually giving South Korea more time. That's always the equation when you're playing the aggro deck. A lot of people feel that aggro is easy to play because you just hit your opponent in the face. But actually, if you have a handful of answers to stuff, you usually know which answer fits the board. If you have a handful of questions and you don't know what the answers are, you don't know which question to play. So it can be very difficult. Don't smirk at me.
What? Just
Aggro boy.
just sounded like a very trivial kind of thing to be saying.
Right.
Farsighting to try and find some answers. They're not really the best of answers. But I guess Malachite Totem is going to allow you to draw through more, and you're hoping for some influential spells now from Hagatha as well. Sauronite Chain Gang is going to be able to do a little bit of damage to this board. There is a Volcano.
But is it too late? They can get the raid leader on the board here with the level up.
And I think, judging by how quickly Green Sheep is playing this, I imagine there is probably just about enough damage to win this game, which would have the United Kingdom win the series 3-2 and have them sailing towards the last 16 as well. Green Sheep slaps his hands together. What a fantastically played game that was from him. You saw me, I was like, oh, I just want to play this level up. I want to get it out. I want to get that damage. But he was patient. He played around removal, and he was rewarded for his patience.
Worked out absolutely beautifully. And the United Kingdom make it to the top 16. And let's face it, last year was a little bit embarrassing for us.
Wasn't a great year for the United Kingdom last year, and I'm sure players like Toast Monster and like Ball Control, they would want to come into this team and say, well, look what we can do. We can bring this team
George
to top 16. Well, who does need George C? Let's be honest. I'm sorry, George. Actually, no, I'm not. But what an amazingly played game from Green Sheep. You really can appreciate how he pilots an aggro deck. Of course, he has 3 fantastic players behind him, but I'm sure he'll be delighted with that one.
Yeah, Ball Control is also very good at sort of meting out damage in that manner, but with Green Sheep piloting, I think they're in a very good position there.
Let's have a look at the matchup then and see what happened across those 5 different games. The United Kingdom took the lead early on with Jackie Chan's, well, I don't want to say it's his Inner Fire Priest. He won with a Inner Fire Priest. But then South Korea, they started pushing back. They got 2 victories on the bounce. But then it was the 2 close 50-50 games that went in the way of the more aggressive deck, Ball Control and Green Sheep, rounding out the victories to send the UK to the last 16. We do think 4 wins is there.
Yeah, 4 wins, especially at this stage, is there. 4 wins next week. We haven't got it all depends who wins the matches where one of the teams plays against a team with more wins. But we will pretty much get there with 4 wins, almost certainly. I just don't want to guarantee anything until we've gone through the numbers.
Well, we are going to have a chat with the man himself. It is going to be Jackie Chan, I believe, is on the line. Hello, Jackie. How are you doing, good friend?
Hello. After that, exhausted but fantastic.
Yeah, it was a long-winded series. I don't think the Odd Warrior game helped. But let's talk about your first game with the Inner Fire Priest. You must have been fairly happy going up against a Quest Rogue with that deck.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Inner Fire Priest, and it's actually really good. It can just kill those kind of slower decks really, really quickly. And yeah, that game went pretty well. We kind of top deck lethal and killed them on like turn 5 or 6. So yeah, it was pretty sweet.
That seemed to happen in quite a lot of the games today, actually. It wasn't just the first one. It happened in game 4 as well.
Talking of how long the games took, how was the team organised for that third game? It looked like Toast Monster sort of drove the show to some degree.
Yeah, Toast was kind of in control and kind of starting things off, and so he would kind of like open up dialogue, and then we would kind of respond to it. We actually communicated pretty well. There was one turn in that Warrior game that we possibly messed up, which was when we used the Reckless Flurry just to kill like a couple of things. If we'd maybe done that differently, maybe the game could have gone differently, but we were just kind of, it was a struggle to just work out how to keep killing these constant war elementals and trying to stop them from creating more. But overall, I think our communication was pretty good.
I think it was an extremely difficult game, not just because it's long, but also you didn't know what the final card was in their hand. You didn't know it was going to be a Gruul, for example. So it's understandable the Reckless Flurry is used, but it's what I was saying during the cast. You had to try and save removal for when you had it. It was just unfortunate it didn't go your way, but the series did go your way in the end. You are at 4-1, which we think gets you into the last 16. After last year's disappointment, you must be over the moon that you've been able to redeem yourself this year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, me and Green Sheep were both on the team last year as well, and it did go great. So feels good. Feels very good to do a lot better this time.
The balance of the team feels really good this time around. You've got somebody for everything, it feels.
Yeah, we have. We're kind of covering all bases, and I think we're all like enjoying it. Like we're having banter while we're kind of talking. Obviously, we're like serious as well and trying to win, but I think we're just enjoying the whole experience.
It's good to see you guys happy. Congratulations again, Jackie, and I'm sure we'll chat soon. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
See you later. I mean, I'm happy to see the UK like actually on a positive note. Last year was a very negative note, wasn't it?
It really was, and it didn't feel like they were having fun last year a lot of the time either.
No, and I mean, I don't want to say that's down to the players necessarily, but sometimes that can be down to results. It's very easy to say you're having fun when you're winning games.
This is true.
Would it be the same interview if they were 0-3 this year? Probably not, but who knows? As we take a look at some of the highlights from this series, we saw an early victory for the United Kingdom before this game, but unfortunately Green Sheep got just out-aggroed by Stilo, which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and then this absolute, I don't know,
Mammoth.
I want to say, yeah, trying not to say Gruul.
Mammoth of a game it
Mammoth
was.
game. Many of these cards were held for the longest time to try and get their best use in fatigue. And that must have been pretty demoralising to lose after what must have been nearly an hour.
But then it was all smiles and thumbs up from ball controllers. He won a game in just 6 turns for the United Kingdom to get them back into the series.
I don't think that was an easy game either.
It was.
There's a lot of choices Boar had to make there to do that Nourish on the early turn, whether to hit face and go all in now or to try and play for a slightly longer game.
But this was my favourite of the series. Green Sheep just holding back his burst for the right moment and managing to push the United Kingdom through to 4-1. It means that South Korea, unfortunately, they dropped to 3-2, so they will have to try again next week to try and get to that last 16. But a very positive series for them as well. I'm sure we will be keeping an eye on them next week to try and qualify.
Yeah, and important to get to 4-1 early because it will be seeded in the top 16, and we've seen most of the top teams are doing well, so you want to be dodging them if possible.
Yeah, dodge those top teams. All right, well, that's the United Kingdom to 4-1, but next up, we have Bulgaria versus Spain going to be coming on your screens. Both of those are 3-1, so another team potentially getting into that last 16. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you shortly.